Putin must be in full seething mode right now. I, in fact, wish I could be in the Kremlin just to see how mad that guy is, because his massive multi-million-dollar project to influence the Moldovan elections has failed by the narrowest of margins. We're going to talk about why this is such bad news for Vladdy Daddy and what it means for Eastern Europe. Let's get into it. Okay, so Moldova has held a huge election, not just reaffirming their pro-European president and their administration, but voted yes to a pro-EU constitutional change, right? This is paving the way for Moldova to at least appeal for EU membership. It's effectively the country of Moldova stating, yes, EU membership is something we aspire to. Now, what that means is a whole bunch of things, but it is first and foremost a blow to the Russian influence operation that has been going on in Moldova. This is, of course, because Russia has their own EU with hookers and beer, but unfortunately, it's only hookers and beer. I think it's called the CTO. CTSO is the military sort of cooperative organization within the Russian sphere of influence. You can literally see the picture right there. It's just Russia and some amigos. But it also has an economic component where you have and a sort of free trade area, but it's means because of the disparity in the countries, it's effectively a Russian influence operation. It means that you work for the Russian government. So if you're going to join the EU, right, obviously the EU, a huge members area with rules that are much more able to protect smaller countries from domination. And so economically, it's a no-brainer. But of course, that doesn't, just because something is common sense doesn't mean it will make its way to a voter. And frankly, there's some people who may be reluctant to join the EU for a variety of reasons, but generally the best arguments are for countries that are like already pretty developed. A country like Moldova would stand to vastly enrich itself. Now, the official data said that yes on the constitutional referendum, clocked in at 50.46% and the no at 49.54%, literally less than 1% of a delta between the two sides, with yes coming out on top. That's with 99.6% of the votes counted. So there aren't enough outstanding votes to swing it. This referendum, now, a lot of people thought it was going to comfortably pass, given Moldova's 2.6 million people all do, in fact, want to make money. But that discounts a critical component, unfortunately, and that is the fact that Vladimir Putin very much did not want this to pass in Moldova, right? So you can recall, you can see Moldova is nestled right here, right between Hungary and Poland and Ukraine. So the issue is, of course, that Putin considers Moldova to be well within, excuse me, I said Hungary is Romania, Romania and Ukraine. And Putin considers Moldova to be comfortably in his Russian sphere of influence. And so as a result, he worked tirelessly to thwart this and promote the no messaging. In fact, before we break down exactly how he did it, I want to mention that if you feel like you're right on the edge of running out of energy, you might need some Strike gum. We got 90 milligrams caffeine in each piece. It's the equivalent of a Red Bull in each piece of gum. We're the highest rated energy gum on Amazon, made in the USA, veteran owned. It's a no-brainer, guys. Like Moldova voting yes on this one. Do you love money, right? Do you love energy? Do you not want to drink a energy drink loaded with sugar that tastes like cough medicine? Well, then obviously get you some Strike gum. The link is in the description, or you can go to Amazon, just search Strike gum, and there it'll be. Okay, let's talk about all the steps that Putin took to stop this from happening. Okay, so the Russians went in through all kinds of sort of stuff. They created, in fact, a they propped up politicians and even parties and lobbying organizations, all of which were funded expressly through Kremlin money in order to influence these Moldovan elections. But more than that, the Russians literally were just like, let's pay people to vote no. And so they funneled $15 million in just 1 month. In just September, $15 million went over the border to bribe Moldovan voters to vote no, right? Some people thought that Putin may have deployed up to $100 million. Guys, think about it. This is a country of 2.6 million people. So you're probably talking about something on the magnitude of like $5 to $10 for every man, woman, and child, or at least every voter in the entire country. This is an insane influence effort, right? And so I say this again because some of these were quasi-legal. Some of these were straight vote buying, right? Some of them were social allowances given to Moldovan pensioners who said, listen, I'll give you more money if you vote no. Moldovans were like, we don't care. We're old. We're boomers, right? We had all that lead paint. So we're not here to think things through, right? Bonus for employees of local governments. And of course, in classic Putin fashion, he tripled down, focusing heavily on the Transnistria region. In fact, he even designed, or rather Russian-backed actors, designed a program on Facebook, right? Where literally you would just get paid for completing simple tasks like posting a message on Facebook about voting no, recruiting others, and convincing voters to vote against EU integration. And participants could earn up to $280, right? And remember, you're Moldovans. That $280 is probably like earning something like $1,000 or $2,000 to a U.S. voter. So, the Moldovan police, of course, had to work a ton to stop this. But it was just the scale, man. They had an anti-EU campaign organized via Telegram where they paid foot soldiers about $50 a month and up to $2,500 a month for regional organizers. These are crazy numbers, guys. And again, the fact that it happened is pretty alarming. But the fact is, Russia literally didn't they were honest about it, right? They were so transparent about their desire. And the reason is because, again, we've talked about this. Putin, a lot of people sit there and go, oh, well, Putin feels surrounded by the EU. He feels surrounded by NATO. But when you look at a map, you're like, dude, you're still Russia. Like, no one can surround Russia. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, literally, you have 1/5 of the world's landmass. You're not surrounded by anybody. And so the fact that he feels this way is sort of a farce. The reality is that he sees that at the end of the day, his system, in which these countries operate as satellites or colonies, serving Moscow's interests, are less desirable than something like the EU that, again, while not perfect, is much more egalitarian and offers much more benefits. Again, if you're a Moldovan doctor, how much more do you think you're going to earn if you have permission to work in Paris, France, right? If you have permission to work in Germany. And again, this is a no-brainer for the average Moldovan. But for Russia, it would be an absolute crisis because the alternative would be to enter a Putin-type system in which, one, Moscow receives basically all the benefits and Moldova receives effectively the leftovers. And this isn't me being like a salty guy. The fact is, it's apparent in the economic growth data. As Moldova has developed a more Western European orientation, it has grown wealthier, right? Countries like Belarus that have remained aligned tightly with Putin have remained economically stagnant. And what I also think is important to point out is that for someone, that this is Putin was hoping this $100 million project to eliminate the votes. Because remember, there is no neutrality. You're between two giant economic blocks. You have the whole Russian and Russian world, and you have the whole Western European world. There's not a lot of true neutrality. You go, oh, well, Switzerland's neutral. There you have true neutrality. Do they, guys? because you can drive through Switzerland, right? Yes, they are neutral, but man, not much. Like I said, they know if you drive through Switzerland, you're not going to be like, oh, is this aligned with Putin's Russia or Western Europe? It's not a trick question. So you can't be neutral. You've got to have an orientation, right? And for Putin, he was hoping that by beating this referendum, it would force Moldovans to say, listen, there's no way to escape the Russian orbit. Putin and Russia are going to prevent us from pivoting. So it's in our best interest to just simply voluntarily give in to Putin's coercions. And for Putin, this means he gets to avoid doing something that he apparently realizes he hates doing, which is invading other countries, right? Because remember, just like Georgia, just like 2014 Ukraine, once you pivot to this westernized orientation and you can't, and Putin thinks he's going to lose you, the next step in his playbook is a military invasion, right? So the fact that Moldova's here, who has already Putin's running his playbook. You notice this region here. This is considered Transnistria, a Russian-backed separatist region. So Moldova is in the, basically think of it as the 2021 Ukraine, right? Breakaway region, Russian-backed, increasing EU orientation, Putin in panic mode. The next step in this playbook, we know what it is, guys. It's military intervention by Russia. And so I don't think that's possible, but the only reason I can say that is because the entire Russian military is stuck in eastern Ukraine. You could see there's just this little teensy problem for Russia to militarily influence Moldova, and it's the Ukrainian army. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Just a quick one, but I think an important one. Thank you to our Colonel team members, Bill Collier, Robert Colburn, Gaius Marning, and Gina Cuesta, Crazy Gorsuch, Francis Carius, L90, Petra Terroru, all our Lieutenant tier members. I couldn't do this without you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Hit that subscribe button. Cheers.